Welcome into another episode of Underdog Stories. I'm Chris Clark with Underdog Sports Marketing. And special guest today, we're excited to have him, WaveOn Health's Adam Halpern, the founder. Adam, how you doing today? Thanks for taking time to join me. I appreciate it.
No, I'm doing well. Thanks for the invite. It's fun to share the word of what we're doing.
Absolutely. And you were one of the people that, I wanted to talk to because I came across what you were doing, I think, on LinkedIn. And first of all, Underdog Sports Marketing, we are super tuned in to sports companies, right? And love learning about them, love learning about their founders, talking to their founders, kind of seeing how they think. And for me, WaveOn Health was so interesting because it seems to me to be focused on an area that's really as yet untapped largely. And so we have a lot of ground to cover with you, but let's not bury the lead here, as the journalists would say. First and foremost, what is WaveOn Health, and kind of tell me a little bit about why you decided to start it.
It starts with my personal background. So I'm an athletic trainer by trade. So we have, as an athletic trainer, it used to be an undergraduate degree. Now it's a master's degree. You have to be state licensed, nationally certified. So athletic trainers are actually allied healthcare professionals. And the reason I share that, a lot of people think athletic trainers are personal trainers that are focusing on performance, but we, as a profession that's been around for 70 years, we focus on the comprehensive athletic health. And I worked at Stanford, I worked with the US ski team, so I'm one of those subject matter expert founders. And I will say this, because this is a pretty interesting story, and I don't even know if you and I talked about it the first time. If you watch sports, and if an athlete goes down on the field, what happens? The athletic trainers are waved on to the field.
Yep.
So that's actually where I came up with the name WaveOn Health. Is I'm taking this really rich service that is embedded in high school, colleges, even pro sports, and looking at the market and saying, well, there's millions of everyday athletes that don't have those same type of resources. Well, let's create it. And that's really the inception of WaveOn Health, is like, hey, there's a lot of athletic trainers on one side that want to deliver the service, and there's a bunch of athletes on the other side that are demanding health and athletic resources, and how do we connect the two? So that's kind of like the real quick highlight of where the concept came from.
Yeah, and I love the idea. Something that I noticed, and especially after our first conversation, was that it kind of sparked it in my mind that, I do a lot of college football coverage and what I do on a daily basis. And the athletes are obviously stars. The coaches have become, in some ways, larger than life. If you think about somebody like, Nick Saban, who stepped away recently, and how kind of revered he was. But you've even got assistant coaches, recruiting staffers, who the general public kind of knows what those people do, right? But athletic trainers are just so important. They seem to be forgotten a lot, whether it's at, the major college level, pro level, high school level. Sometimes if you're watching like an MLB game or some, a pitcher steps off the mound, here comes John Smith, like sometimes you get to know the trainer, right? But generally they're just so forgotten with their role, nonetheless critically important, right? So do you feel like, and you might have said this, but just to reiterate, what made you kind of realize, hey, there's a gap here where there's not enough, this service doesn't really exist for athletic trainers that want to help, and then there's not enough of them access to this for actual athletes?
When you gave your like intro and you said underdog sports, I was like, oh yeah, that's actually what athletic trainers are. Like they're this underdog within the athletic department. Everyone knows we're valuable, but we're not really a revenue generator, or we're not on camera every day, so no one really knows about us. So we're kind of like that silent killer within the athletic department. So if we talk about where the idea actually came from, being at Stanford, being with the US ski team, I know our service. I've been on national boards within our profession. And there's a simple activity that happens thousands of times per day across this country, which is former athletes, parents, athletic directors, people in the community will ask athletic trainers for help. What should I do about this? And do you got a guy? and they're looking for ankle sprain advice. My low back hurts. I got a golf tournament this weekend. And we as athletic trainers, we literally just do it for free. So as a subject matter expert founder, and I'm looking at the market, the demand and the supply is in that same conversation. People are demanding access to advice and support instead of going through the complexity of the healthcare system. And then there's athletic trainers that have this really rich, curated information in their brain about how do we help athletes get better faster. And I was like, well, let's just connect the two. And how do you do that? Well, it's 2025. You do that with technology. And how do you create a scalable model that gives everyone the same type of accessibility that the high school athletes have, the college athletes have, and then the professional athletes have? So a lot of it is me just kind of looking at what's happening and listening to pain points. And in the world of startups, it's all about what problem are you solving? And we're literally solving multiple problems at the exact same time, just with one single solution that connects everybody.
I love that. And that's where I was going next. You identify a problem first, and then you have to come up with the plan, and in your case, the tech, right? You so more than even some other businesses. And, at Underdog Sports Marketing, I think about it for us, we've all had bad marketing agency experiences. So we took the parts that quite frankly sucked and about that experience, we eliminate those and try to solve a problem, which is there are a lot of people looking for marketing help and they can't find somebody who can speak the language of sports to help them grow their sports brand or their sports business. And if they have found somebody like that, or they've used different agencies in the past, maybe they've had some of those, negative experiences with cost or performance or whatever it may be. So we try to solve those. So for you, I mean, I feel like you're stepping into a couple different things. Number one, you have this idea that very much has a void, as you've just laid out so eloquently, but also you are a subject matter expert where you're not just hey, I want to start this company that does this thing. Like you know what you're talking about here as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the business and the tech of it, right? So when it goes from idea to execution, what were your, first days here of, okay, here's this idea. How am I going to do this thing? Like, what were your first few items to start WaveOn Health?
That is a loaded question that I
Yeah, I know.
way too long. I'll kind of give you the abbreviated version,
Yeah,
and this might be helpful for just the conceptual understanding of what I'm doing.
yeah,
Being a subject matter expert and a subject matter founder, I know the problems within the sports world, but I'm not a technical founder, and we're leveraging technology, so I have no idea how to build this solution. So if we look at the world of like my startup and being part of different accelerators, the quick cliff notes are I was trying to raise money from people that I don't know to build out a technology environment that doesn't exist. Our biggest challenge within like WaveOn Health, we're first to market. No
mhm,
one in the world is doing what we're doing, and nobody wants to be first. So there was no way I was going to get people I didn't know to pay me to build out a platform. And I'm not even the technologist. And I didn't even have like a CTO with all this background from Google or all the technology companies. So it was a really big risk for the investors. If we move forward, I'm really good at getting the service delivery side, right? Because we're a combination of technology and the service. Athletic trainers love what I'm talking about because this solution really solves some of their professional problems. So we've been making a good roadmap and a good headway every single week, every single month. But it still didn't solve our technology problem. So we were able to use some off-the-shelf technology that validate our proof of concept that this will work. Athletes and athletic trainers can connect. We're providing access to advice and support in a virtual environment. And then that allowed us to go build out our own technology that really matches our needs. And that's what's going to be developed and launched in the next, 6 to 8 weeks, which is really exciting for us because I've been stewing on this idea implementing this idea, working on it for a long, long time, which I said it might take a long conversation. But to now have our own product that matches not what Adam thinks is cool. We're literally building it based on the customer discoveries from athletes, from athletic trainers. How do we improve that connectability? What type of resources need to be in it? What are the benefits? And that's what's really exciting is we're listening to our customers to build out what they need.
Oh, I love both of those things. So my two biggest takeaways from that, sometimes, and I'll put myself in this, if you're trying to find a solution, and it may not be something as robust as what you just described, which is let's literally be first to market and create something that doesn't exist. Not even using that extreme of an example, but hey, I've got this problem. I need to create a solution for it within my own business or for somebody else. Oh, let's create a customized, let's spend all this money to do it. And you're not even sure if the thing's going to work, or do you even need that? Like, is there something out there that you can white label? Is there something that you can? And so I love that you did that first, validated it. And then the second part, just listening to customer feedback, people who actually use the product. Then you go out and use your solution and create your solution. To me, it seems like a big time and money and headache savings doing it that way.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I mean, that's following the lean startup method. It's how can you do everything as lean as possible without spending unnecessary money? And I'm not perfect. There's things I've done that I wish I wouldn't have done. But even, a Google sheet, an Excel sheet, and a little bit of TLC can go a long way. So it's not about building and buying something. It's like, I have a piece of paper and a pen. Let me try something again and again and again. And then you create a process. Well, how do I simplify or scale that process? And that's usually when technology comes in. Being that subject matter expert, I just know that what we're building is happening tens of thousands of times per day because there's been this profession that's been up and running for 70 years. So it's not like I just had this crazy outlandish idea. I've been listening to a profession complain about the same thing for years. And I'm like, well, here's the solution. How do we put it all together?
Yeah. And to your point about the Google sheet, I mean,
Yep.
I know many people more than one business owner who runs their business, a thriving business off of a Google sheet, Google Docs, Notion, whatever it may be.
Yep.
I mean, it is still possible.
Yep.
All right. So business idea, validation. We talked about the early days of tech and then now how you are getting closer and closer to launching your own solution, which is awesome. Congrats, by the way. What about getting the word out, right? So you obviously this is a world you're not stepping into an unknown world. You know how athletic trainers think. You know how athletes who use athletic trainers think. But when you're thinking about scaling and actually letting everybody know about this product, how do you think about, I guess, marketing WaveOn Health?
No, this is going to be a fun conversation because you're going to be able to contribute to my brain and maybe even be part of the long-term strategy. So this is going to be fun. Yes, I know how people think. Does that mean I'm a marketer? No. Right? And there's a big difference.
Yeah.
And being the subject matter expert, I want to talk to them at a master's level and their third grade level. Right? And everyone knows that's marketing. You got to bring it down to the layman. What I am trying to build is a very successful company. And the only way to do that is you have the right people around the table to make the concept and the service successful. So for me to sit here and think, oh, I know exactly what to say for athletes or athletic trainers, everyone listen to me because I'm king of the castle, we won't go anywhere. So it's now about how do we get the right resources that understand the success of their domain. And one of the things that I always say, unicorns do not exist. That's why they are a mythical creature. I can't do everything, right? I can't be a marketer, investor relations, a product sales guy. It doesn't work. So now it's about, okay, well, how do we get our message out? The one thing I do know about our business model, the athletic trainer is the cornerstone of the business. And the reason I say that, we as a profession and as an individual professional have built personal relationships with our end customer for years that is built on trust. And that's kind of the uniqueness of athletic training. So part of our getting the word out we get athletic trainers because I'm part of the athletic training community and my team is part of the athletic training community. We can make one post on social media about what we're doing. We're looking for new areas or new growth, and we can get hundreds of athletic trainers in 30 minutes. So that's not difficult. But then we look at, well, how do we get the demand? How do we get the athletes in those markets to work with the athletic trainers? We then have the athletic trainers open up their cell phone, go through their email, and look at who do they already know, but we need the right messaging to match that communication. And it's the same thing. Athletic trainers are not salesmen, they're not marketers, they're not advertisers. So they don't really know how and what to explain to their end user base, right? Athletes, athletic directors, coaches. We're looking for the right type of marketing support to help simplify that message. How is it clear? What types of problems are we solving for them? And then if we talk about like the marketing approach, there's a lot of science that goes into it, from the AI generated, curated responses and lead gen and SEO. There's a whole nother world that there's no way I can expect myself or a group of clinical athletic trainers to know all that unless they created their own marketing business, but it's still so complex. We have to work with the right type of resources to get that word out quickly through that cornerstone in that market.
Well, first of all, I mean, I took in everything you said there, but my main takeaway is honestly, if you can make one social media post and get hundreds of leads, I'll be contacting you to try to hire you for
Yep.
no, but seriously, I mean, that does speak to somebody I follow, Nicholas Cole, who's an amazing copywriter, always says your niche is your network, right? So
Yep.
like that is, all joking aside, that's where you start, and that's where
Yep.
you guys have found success. And you just laid it out. You can tap into your network, and you've already got people interested in validating your product. So your next step in marketing, I think, it can take many forms as it evolves, but reaching out more to athletes, to athletic directors. So when you think about, okay, how can we get ADs? From, let's say, high school ADs, right? Well, yes, you start with your athletic trainers and try to pull in their network, but then you're going to have to start with cold outreach. Well, some of that's long term. You mentioned SEO. SEO generally longer term play. If you're trying to get leads tomorrow, you needed to have started SEO a couple years ago, probably, in a general sense. Then you've got cold email, you've got ads, you've got social media, right? So I think just getting the word out that way in those different avenues, and you'll kind of find, what works and what doesn't. But I love how you start with your network, because that's the natural starting point. That's what makes
And
sense.
then the only thing that's coming to mind as you say what you just said, there's then also the buying habits of each one of those markets. And while SEO might take a long time, if we're using SEO to get athletic directors, the buying habits of the school system takes twice as long, because there's boards and there's the purchasing department, and schools don't act quickly. So schools is on our radar as one of our verticals, but we can't start there because we wouldn't be generating revenue probably till fall 2027, just because that's
Yeah.
how SEO and all the schools make decisions. So there's other verticals that are much quicker to make decisions, and it's figuring out, well, how do we address the problems they have with this 21st century solution?
Yeah. And with schools, there can be, maybe not necessarily for your business, but I'm thinking of some others that we work with. You've got not only boards and sales cycles and, particular times of year, but you've got maybe some partnerships that they have that they can't step on. I mean, there's various things here, but what you have is a very large addressable market that doesn't have this solution, right? And I just think about what resonates, right? And in marketing and in sales, and with your starting point of athletics directors, even if you go outside your network, how many athletic trainers are there in the US generally?
55,000, and that's a blend between around 40 to 45 are part of the National Athletic Trainers Association, and then there's an overflow of athletic trainers that are not in the national membership. So it's hard to know exactly how many when you look at the baseline being the NATA. But sometimes people say 70 to 80, but 55 is in the middle. That's why we did 55.
So it's a lot. And then all those, have clients or
Yep.
end users, as you would say, that they work with. So it's
Yeah.
a big
It's
it's a
huge.
big market. Yes, a
Well, and
huge
then there's
market.
24 million everyday athletes. The end of
Yeah.
the end game is 24 million everyday athletes. And if we put
Right.
the marketing hat out, we define our end user as an athlete, which means they're working out, competing, training 4 days a week. They have a performance goal and they're already spending money on membership, equipment, travel, entry fees, or private coaching. Like they need
Yeah.
us because they want to compete and they want to perform at the highest level. And if they're not part of a high school or a college or a pro team without an athletic trainer, they're literally on their own. They're ignoring the pain, asking their friends and family, searching Dr. Google, or going into healthcare, which is actually sick care because it's all reactive, takes a
Yeah.
long time, costs a lot of money, does not focus on preventative early intervention. And that's the sweet spot. It's like there's a huge market. We've just always been stuck in institutional sports. Well, let's bring it out. Let's bring it to everybody.
Yeah, I love that thought. So one other thing I wanted to ask you about on your website,
Yep.
you've got, which by the way, the website, waveonhealth.com, you should go there, check it out. The very first menu item is pickleball. And
Yep.
so that immediately intrigued me. We actually have a pickleball court in my neighborhood, been playing with the family some.
Yep.
Got a bunch of buddies that have taken up pickleball recently. It's a very growing sport. What's kind of the tie-in there
Yep.
with that sport and what you're doing?
So, like I said, it's great that we're talking marketing. It is 100% about the go-to-market strategy for an early stage, first to market company. And I highlighted, yes, schools are on the roadmap. Youth club sports are on the roadmap. National governing bodies, NGBs with tens of thousands of athletes across the country all need the service. But as a startup, it's, well, where are we going to get the fastest traction? Because we're solving a problem that they have with a solution they might not have otherwise. So if we look at the sport of pickleball, right, one of the fastest growing sports in 2023, it's probably even the fastest growing sport now. Their number one problem is actually injuries. And they lack the infrastructure around prevention or recovery, which actually hurts the growth of the sport because if people start to get injured, they might stop playing it. They have a ton of infrastructure around courts, leagues, equipment, but nothing is really addressing on a scalable model. How do we keep these athletes healthy? So because of that, they're over 40. They do not have any resources that keeps them playing pickleball. And our model is, well, there's athletic trainers in every single corner of the country, and they don't have to be in front of the pickleball players. So it's a really affordable option that they're looking for answers, and we're already gaining traction in the pickleball space because there's no solution. We're literally the only solution that's ever given them attention. They love it.
Well, and I'm just thinking we have kind of an inside joke in my group of friends where like we all play soccer and ultimate
Yep.
frisbee together and things like that.
Yep.
Where I've seen a variety of injuries, right? But the funny thing is we always say like more guys have gotten injured playing pickleball actually, and maybe that's just coincidence, but where are all those guys going when they get hurt? They're going to the doctor and
Yep,
they're coming
exactly.
back with, oh, this or that, or it costs this, and
And sometimes they didn't have to go to the doctor.
that's right.
They just needed access to what should I do about my shoulder? What should I do about my
Yes.
wrist, my ankle? They just
Yeah.
don't have a solution. So that's the only thing they know where to go.
They need some advice. Yeah. It's like you said, it's either Google it and possibly get it wrong and make it worse or go to the doctor and like you said, sick care. So,
Yeah.
so it just struck me that I probably haven't done a great job of trying to explain actually. I mean, I think we all know kind of what you're doing here and that it's tech based, but give us a very simplified version of, let's say, soon when your kind of end product comes out for WaveOn Health. Let's say I'm a pickleball player. Oh, my shoulder hurts. Literally, what am I doing? Am I picking up the app, registering, finding someone near me? How does all that work?
So I love the question, and this is where we need a marketing company to help. Like this is the prime example. What we're actually doing is what athletic trainers do in person for all of the high schools and all the colleges and pro teams that we know, which is we are two things: the athlete's advocate and then the athletic health navigator. So the reason I highlight those two, where you went is where most people go which is once I'm injured, how do I use it? That's not what athletic trainers do in person. If you were an athlete, we'll just say soccer because you said soccer. We do pre-participation baseline testing. So then we know what to give an athlete in the moment to prevent injuries from happening, getting worse. Then we're there to provide early intervention to keep it from getting worse. And then when you have an actual injury, we manage it. Then if you need to see a specialist, we get you in as quickly as possible. And then we help you through recovery to get you back to soccer as fast as possible. The technology allows that to happen. So in a perfect world, when you start playing pickleball day one, we are in your pocket as that really, like, simple terms, concierge athletic health service.
Yep.
That it's not injury management. We're that access to advice and support that is really personalized to give you exactly what you need. You can communicate with an athletic trainer through the technology. It's all HIPAA compliant, which is all safe, for personal health information. And then we're giving you personalized programming based on where you are in that continuous cycle.
So when I think of this, I think of two examples, a high level and a low level. I'll be the low level example. So before my Tuesday night men's league old man soccer game, before the season starts, I'm checking in with an athletic trainer. Hey, do I, maybe need to go out and eat Mexican food and have a couple things before and not stretch? Like, give me some tips to help my ankle from not hurting because I snapped my ankle playing soccer a couple years ago. Versus high level, like, you go watch an SEC college football practice. The trainers before, they have taped the athletes. They've had rehab during the week.
Yep.
They're eating healthy. They're doing exercises in the weight room and stretches and Pilates and things like that to kind of decrease the incidence of soft tissue injuries. Am I on the right track there with?
Yeah, and I'll actually give you the SEC football example because I kind of give it all the time. What athletic training does when I talk about the advocacy and the health and the athletic health management perspective, the athletic trainer is always available. So when the football players are in a stretching line before practice, the athletic trainer is just walking up and down. Hey, everything good? I saw you moving your shoulder around. Everything good? Or you were moving your ankle. Did you twist it? And that connectability allows that trust for an athlete to say, oh, well, since you're here, let me tell you what's going on. So then we, as an athletic trainer, can give that early intervention to help them get better faster. The general public, they have nothing like that. So they just ignore whatever's going on. And it might be discomfort. It might be an ache or pain. But by ignoring that, it then becomes a real big injury in the healthcare system. So the real value is an athlete that has anything feeling weird or it doesn't feel normal, ask us. So yes, we can help with, hey, don't eat red and green chili in the pounds before a soccer game. But it's more so, oh yeah, tell me about your shoulder. Well, let's watch you move it. Let's watch you do some lateral hops. And I can see your facial expression. I can see how much pain you're in. I can see your range of motion. And then based on that, I'll give you some stuff to do. And then we'll check in again. And I'll progress you. And I'll literally try to keep you out of the healthcare system as to keep you on the field as much as possible. That's the real value.
Well, and I'll give you, kind of, this would relate to sports, but, everybody I think has been in the case, man, I've got this discomfort. It might not be anything like athletic. It may be something health-wise, and you're trying to avoid going to the doctor, because it costs and it's a pain and all those things. And so when you apply that to the athletics world, a twinge or something like that, again, you don't want to go to the doctor for that. And like you said, it may go worse. It may get worse. You ignore it. So this would be awesome technology to have in your pocket, pull out at any time, and be
So
able
with
to
that, right,
stay
just
healthy.
to highlight, yes, there's technology, but then it's the service on the back end, which is actually why it's a solution. It's not just technology.
Sure.
But really what we're selling is a convenience fee and a peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So everything you said is the convenience of having an athletic trainer or an athletic health specialist tell me exactly how bad my 15-year-old daughter's ankle is that twisted it in volleyball practice. that is amazing. You're helping me walk off the cliff. You're giving me stuff to do now. You're
Hmm.
saving me so much time and money by going to the local urgent care, emergency room, then my PCP, and then maybe in 2 weeks I'll see the specialist. Literally, we can help that family that night, tell them what to do at the house, and check in the morning. And they never had to drive anywhere. They're just using their cell phone for that communication.
Well, and back to marketing as we close it out, and I let you run here. I do have one more question for you.
Yeah.
I think this we've been talking for about 30 minutes, and for you, I think my big picture takeaway for your marketing efforts is, distilling what we have talked about in 30 minutes to about 30 seconds for somebody, right? Like that's the goal. And there's different ways to do that across different mediums, but if you have 30 minutes to listen to this podcast, if you're an athletic trainer, you're going, this sounds incredible.
Yeah.
If you're an athlete, you're going, this sounds incredible. But as we know, people have short attention spans, and it's about getting to them and giving them that bite size boom. This is kind of a no brainer, because it really is. So,
Yeah.
last kind of cliche thing for you is, when you look a couple years down the road, do you have any goals for WaveOn Health that where would you like to see this thing?
Yeah, I mean, we get that question all the time, and it can go from we want to be acquired, we want to
Yeah.
sell. There's all the different ways to answer it. I do look at the supply and the demand, right? The demand is the athletic space, the supply is the athletic trainers. I think we'll start to create very specialized verticals where if you are a golfer, there's the golfing vertical where an everyday golfer will have access to PGA athletic trainers, Division One golf athletic trainers, senior PGA athletic trainers, and then all the way down the roadmap. One of our athletic trainers does a lot within the sport of ultimate frisbee, which is interesting because you mentioned that.
Hmm.
Well, there's a ton of ultimate frisbee players across the country. What if they enter this very curated resource that has all the prevention exercises? There's athletic trainers that know the sport in and out, and then we're able to treat all of them like a pro athlete. So I would say that's probably the high level, and then within that, there's a million athletes that we're supporting. We're in all 50 states. We've increased athletic trainers' personal income 20%. I can put all those metrics out there, but I think for people to realize if you're an everyday athlete, we can treat you like a pro athlete, and we're just connecting all that together.
Oh man, what you said there really sparked some ideas. So we're gonna hop off here now, and we may geek out on some more marketing off camera,
Yeah.
if that's cool. So,
No, let's
Adam,
do it.
hey, I really appreciate your time joining us here on Underdog Stories for Underdog Sports Marketing. It's Adam Halpern, WaveOn Health. It's waveonhealth.com. Wishing you nothing but the best. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. If anyone has any questions, reach out.